Hi, I'm Tyson Franklin, and welcome to this week's solo episode on the Podiatry Legends podcast designed to help you feel, see, and think differently about the podiatry profession. Today, I want to talk about email newsletters. And if you're not already using an email newsletter in your podiatry business, it is a missed opportunity. It is one of the best and cheapest ways to staying connected with your patients. It's a great way to market products. It's a great way to market services that you're offering. It's a great way to just stay connected with your patients. And here's the thing. If you don't stay connected to your patients, somebody else will. And that's why you could lose them. So if you're not already using email newsletters, please send me an email, tf@tysonfranklin.com if you've got any questions about it. But if not, just keep listening. Now, there's two really common ones. Campaign Monitor is the email program that I particularly use and like, but I know a lot of people use MailChimp. There's a lot of programs out there. So if you've never done one before, just start digging around. Google it if you need to. What's the best email newsletter program? How do I do it? Go and watch some YouTube videos. But if in doubt, send me an email and I can sort of guide you along the process. But what I want to talk about today, one, I'm going to go over 6 tips on or ways that I think you can have a better newsletter. But what I want to talk to you first about is just about open rates and click-through rates. So a lot of marketers will tell you that you should get a certain percentage of emails open. And I've always heard the term around 20% is really, really good. And when some people see that, they go, oh, it's only 20%, that's a bit disappointing. Don't worry about the open rates. I really think the numbers are not important. What is just as important is the people who are not unsubscribing. So if you send out a number of email newsletters and 20% open it, great. But the 80% who don't open the newsletter, don't worry about it. As long as they're not unsubscribing, it means they don't mind your newsletter turning up in their inbox. If they did annoy them, they would unsubscribe. So even with my own newsletter, even though I think it's pretty awesome, a number of people, every time I send one out, especially when I was doing it on a monthly basis, would unsubscribe. And initially you used to go, oh, that hurt, they unsubscribed. But then you realize it doesn't matter. What they've pretty much told you is, Tyson, well, what they've told me, not you, is I don't think we're a good fit. I don't like the information that you provide and I'm unsubscribing. Initially, I used to realize I was pretty thin-skinned. But over a period of time, you realize it doesn't matter. What's important is the people who don't unsubscribe. So picture your patients. You've got 1,000 patients in your database. You send out an email newsletter, 20% are opened, great. A few click through to certain things, great. But what's more important is how many of them actually engage with your business. How many of them are picking up the phone and actually calling you? How many are inquiring about the service or product that you actually mentioned in your newsletter? That's the important thing. So you could have 200 people click on your email newsletter and take no action. Or you could have 50 people click on your email newsletter and 20 of them actually contact your clinic and take some form of action through an appointment or just inquiring about that product. So don't worry about the open rate so much. It's the engagement rate. How many people are actually engaging with your business? But also, even if they're not clicking on or opening the email, as long as they're not unsubscribing and they're seeing your business name popping up in their inbox every single month, that is a reminder that your business is there. Now, one thing I reckon you should really, really try and avoid is the subject line is really important. And depending on how interesting that subject line is, can sometimes make people open it. So you could do a subject line that says, that's it, I quit and give up. And that might make people go, oh, I'm going to see what all this is about. And I've seen newsletters come through that have that message. And it's not always a bad thing, but if they then click on and the newsletter they realize that was just clickbait. It was something that you dangled in front of them to make them click, and then your newsletter has nothing really to do with that. It can get really, really annoying. So don't try and come up with just clever subject lines purely just to get people to open it. If you know it's probably going to annoy them in the end, it's not probably a good thing. If you want to test it, try doing it. If you notice you get more people unsubscribe when you try something clever, you might realize it wasn't actually worth doing. So now I want to explain 6 things that I think you should be looking at when it comes to your email newsletter. First one is keep it focused. have a purpose for doing the newsletter. So when I was first doing my newsletter, I used to do it once a month. Then I changed it to doing it once a week. And now, more recently, I've decided to do it 3 times a week. Now, if you've been receiving it 3 times a week at the moment, you might go, yes, Tyson, I've noticed you send it 3 times a week now. But the reason I do it is because I've focused each newsletter. They're really short, and I focused it to Mondays is a marketing tip. Wednesdays is just promoting the guest episode on the podcast. And Fridays is promoting the solo podcast. And then I have just one little bit of information at the end of the newsletter. Really, really simple. So I've actually focused each newsletter. So there's a purpose for doing it. The second tip is don't overcomplicate it. Keep it simple. So if you have a newsletter that just drags on so long and people are going, oh my God, when's this ever going to end? You're going to find they won't open it, or they will unsubscribe. So just don't overcomplicate it. Keep it simple. Like I said, that's why I split mine up into 3 separate emails now. Plus, the more you're appearing in somebody's inbox and they don't unsubscribe, the more it's reminding them that you're actually there. And I've got a story where I used to receive an email once a month from a company over here called Barbecues Galore. So you may not have barbecues galore in your area or your country, but I used to get it every month without fail. And I would probably open it maybe 1 or 2 times a year, just depending on what sort of mood I was in and what I was going to be doing. For some reason, now I know I didn't unsubscribe, but for some reason, I no longer get emails from it. I have not got an email from Barbecues Galore for probably 3 or 4 years. But over the past 12 months, I got really interested in barbecuing again and smoking meat. I now get an email probably every week or every 2 weeks from Cairns Barbecue Company. I think it's every week on a Friday, so I should actually get it today. And when it arrives in my inbox, I look forward to it, and I open it up every single week because my thinking has now changed, and I'm more interested in that. If Barbecues Galore had not booted me off the email list, I don't know, like I said, I don't know what happened, I would be opening up that email every time it actually arrived. But because they don't send me anything anymore, they're not top of mind. So whenever I think barbecuing, I think Cairns Barbecue Company. So just remember that yourself. When you're sending out the newsletter, if they're not opening it, as long as you're doing it and you're staying top of mind, when they have a foot problem, they have a foot issue, or they've got a question, they're going to come to you first. So the third thing is, in your newsletter, add some community news. So a little bit different for me because my community is quite wide. But in your local area is what's happening in your community that could be of interest to your patients. Add that into your newsletter so it shows that you are connected with the community. The fourth thing is add some third-party content that's got nothing to do with you in particular. It could be a wine review. It could be a rum review. You might go and interview a business owner in a completely different industry, someone that's just doing something amazing in your town that you've heard of. Reach out to them and find, hey, can I do a quick interview? Can I get a photo with you for my newsletter? Most businesses and most individuals will never say, oh no, sorry, I don't need the publicity, unless they're super famous, then they might. So just keep that in mind. The fifth thing is don't mind including trending topics. In Australia, we have the Australian Open usually in January, depending what COVID happens to be doing. This year it was February. But when the Australian Open is on, or you might have the US Open if you're in the States, or Wimbledon, which we all know about, is when that is happening, and that's quite a trendy topic, or it's a trending topic, is talk about tennis in your newsletter because you know people are searching for it. So you may introduce some of that stuff into your newsletter. When there's other sporting events on, the Olympics are coming up this year in July, August. It's a great time to talk about the Olympics, build up to it, include it in your newsletter, make people feel that this newsletter is very relevant and it's on topic of what's actually happening at the moment. And the sixth thing I've got is just be consistent. If you're going to do a monthly newsletter, try and make it come out around the same time. If it's the first Wednesday of the month, don't have it come out the first Wednesday this month, and then the next month it's on a Tuesday, but it's on the fourth Tuesday, and it's all over the place. Try and have it come out around the same time each month so that people sort of get used to it and they look forward to it. We used to have a lot of patients when we had our email newsletter with our clinic that would actually say they look forward to seeing the recipe every month that we used to put in there. That Sam, who used to work with me, used to do this awesome recipe. So they get used to seeing it on a certain time. So just remember that consistency is key. It's like with all your marketing, consistency is key. And that's why my newsletters now, I've changed it. Monday's marketing, Wednesday is the guest episode, Friday is my solo episode. If for some reason I decide not to do a solo episode, I won't release the newsletter. But my plan is now, even with the podcast, is once a week on a Wednesday. It was going to be a Tuesday, Wednesday. It depends what part of the world you're in, on what day it actually comes out. But Wednesday is the guest episode. Friday is the solo episode, or it could be Tuesday, Thursday, depending where you live. And I'm just trying to keep that consistent habit up all the time. Do the same thing with your newsletters. Don't be inconsistent. So if you're going to do it once a month, do it once a month. If you're going to do it once a week, do it once a week. If you're going to do it 3 times a week, do it 3 times a week. And I hope you get something from that, because like I said right at the start, I really believe newsletters are such a good marketing tool for your business. And if you don't know how to do it, whether you reach out to me or you reach out to somebody else, if you've got a podiatry friend who you know produces a newsletter and produces a great newsletter, reach out to them and say, can you help me put together my newsletter? I tell you, it will be the best marketing dollars you ever spend. And it is so cheap in comparison to every other forms of marketing. And it's a great way of staying connected with your patients. And that's what we're trying to do. Over a period of time, you want your patients to get to know, like, and trust you. And the best way of doing it is through a newsletter. And don't mind even introducing some personal stuff about yourself, whether you have an interest, whether it's in wine, whether it's in hamburgers, whether it's in barbecuing. I just described everything about myself. So, but if you have common interests, basically include them in the newsletter. You don't want to tell them your whole life story, but let them get to know a little bit about you over a period of time. So I hope you got something from this particular episode. If you ever have any questions, whether it's about this episode or anything I've spoken about in the past, or you have a thought in the future, please reach out to me. Tyson, or just send an email to tf@tysonfranklin.com. Just remember, my website is tysonfranklin.com. Go over there and check out, see what events are actually coming up. There's a couple of beauties coming up in the not too distant future. And if you're not on the Podiatry Business Owners Club already on Facebook, go over there. And just remember, it's the Podiatry Business Owners Club. Don't get us mixed up with the Podiatry Business Owners Group. That's not us. We are more exciting and we have a lot more fun. We do post some funny things in there. So that's it from me this week. Look after yourself, look after your family, and I will talk to you next week. Bye for now.